when I presented this to the Pope, he grabbed my hand very strong and he looked at me straight into the eyes and he told me, eso. That's what I need you to. That's what I need you to do. That's what I need. And he grabbed me to the eye. That's what I need you to do. And obviously, coming from a Pope, it has a powerful meaning.
Welcome everyone to Born to Unicorn. We are here in another episode. In this case, we have Santi Siri, a person that I profoundly admire. We worked together in the past in AI, and now he's done like everything. This guy, was always trying to focus on big challenges. He's a founder of Democracy Earth Foundation, a non-profit organization backed by Y Combinator that has built universal basic income. He will tell us a little bit about that in a moment, on Ethereum, and launched the Proof of Humanity Protocol, author of Hacktivismo, published in 2015 by Random House, host of La Última Frontera, tech podcast produced with Pillow News, board member of Smallhood, creators of the leading YouTube channel Plim Plim, with over 1 billion monthly views. I didn't know that was even possible. In the past, he founded the Partido de la Red. Santi, you almost won the elections in Argentina with that, right?
Thankfully, I didn't.
You almost. That was the first political party for digital democracy that ran for elections and co-founded ADVA, the Argentine Game Developers Association. And he's not putting, this here, but he also was working on AI at the beginning, I would say, of AI with NLP. We were together at that moment. So welcome, Santi, to Born to Unicorn, and thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Good to reconnect after many years, and I wish I get to be a unicorn.
Well, I think unicorn, and this is a good point to start, right? Being a unicorn, everybody talks about unicorns as $1 billion company, but we can talk also about $1 billion ideas and implementations, right? And I think what you've been doing is unicorn style, right?
Yeah, there was a brief moment in my life that lasted over, I think, a little bit over 4 hours, that I literally had $1 billion in my hand.
Wow.
But it was only for 4 hours. It was when we did the launch of the UBI token on Ethereum, and people went absolutely crazy about it. The very second we launched the token, the Proof of Humanity Protocol. This was a project aiming to do universal basic income on Ethereum, and it was the launch when I still had the tokens under my control before distributing it to the investors and all of the stakeholders of the project. Very quickly and unexpectedly, the token went straight to $100 of price, and I had 10 million tokens in a Trezor, in a hardware wallet. And for those brief hours, I had $1 billion in my hand.
How it felt?
Yeah. Then everything obviously went back to reality, and investors started dumping, and the price went down.
But I think this idea of unicorn is, sometimes I feel like I can compare the unicorn entrepreneur as a gambler, right? That the gambler is not gambling for money; he gambles for the the feeling of gambling. And I think like $1 billion entrepreneurs or big ideas entrepreneurs are there for the what you feel by doing it more than anything else, right?
It takes enormous risk taking. Something that I learned throughout my years as an investor, which is something I have done in my part-time for the last 20 years, also throughout my career, is that if you want to actually make money, concentrate on one asset, one idea, one thing. If you want to preserve your money, that diversify. That's when you actually want to diversify. For preservation of capital, for generation of capital, you have to take risks, and taking risk is taking. If you actually want to make a significant move, you have to take a bold risk, like, I don't know, getting into Bitcoin early on, or getting into some stock or some company or some startup very early on, and that's massive risk taking. Um, Usually easier when you are younger and when you don't have a family, or I don't know, a mortgage or stuff that, debts that you need to pay. So ideally in your 20s, it's when you actually go all in on something. And if you are wise enough, yeah, you might have a shot at making, not sure if $1 billion, but at least a decent amount of money.
Yeah, and beside the money, I think the enthusiasm that generates making these
Yeah.
big projects is fantastic. I mean, in your case in particular, um, you know, at what moment do you realize that you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Because you started like in the early stage of internet with gaming. So
Yeah.
I see you like someone that you never had problems in getting a fantastic job, right? Right. So
Well, I'm passionate. I think another element is conviction, right? In order to go through the ups and downs that you will go down through the creation of any kind of project, you have to have strong conviction that will make you go through those storms with the same passion that you had probably during the first day. And that's always a challenging thing. I think I was lucky enough. I grew up looking up to entrepreneurs. Like, I'm from the Bill Gates generation, and I grew up, um, looking up to the myth of Bill Gates versus Steve Jobs, and Apple and Microsoft in the 90s. And it was fascinating to me to see that, these amazing minds that were shaping the future of computing, how they built their companies, and how they went through, big battles in order to champion the idea of the personal computer for the rest of the world. And I guess I was inspired by that growing up as a teenager. And then I figured, yeah, I always, it's a mix of being an enthusiast of technology, and trying to find the projects that are, convincing enough to help make a positive change in society. And yeah, I don't know if I would label myself as an entrepreneur now that I'm 40 years old and I've been through many things in the last 20 years of my career. I always remain like kind of in a position where I don't know exactly what's my role anymore, but I try to engage myself in fun, interesting projects, challenging projects that have some potential to shape things up for society.
like reshaping democracy in the world.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That was a fun one. The Partido de la Red, the political party. Back in 2012, we did this political party that had candidates for Congress that would only vote bills according to how people tell them online how to vote. Some sort of hack of democracy to make it more direct and more participative. So it's really interesting. I got into that project 10 years ago. We kind of had the hunch of how technology could help improve things, and now 10 years later, it seems like we're kind of living in a future where we are definitely in that timeline, and hopefully democracy is improving. I'm not so sure about that anymore, but certainly the media has gone digital and social.
Well, the media, and as you mentioned, so you saw this of the Democracy OS before anybody else, probably. I don't remember. I mean, of course, we all have ideas, right? And I thought about the idea of, do we still need people representing us when we have technology? I mean, we can definitely make our petitions through technology. But you was the first one that said, let's do it. And that
Yeah.
requires like a jump to the cliff, it's enormous craziness. I mean, how, first of all, how was the moment in which you was sitting in your house and say, hey, yes, I will create a political party, and then I will create software so we can have a global democracy. How was that moment?
I tend to describe the experience of Partido de la Red as Don Quixote. Don Quixote was, he was a madman, and he just blindly went to chase adventures just for the sake of having the adventure. And what happens with an idea like Partido de la Red and Democracy OS is that you start pitching the idea to your friends, to your colleagues, and every now and then you will find a colleague or a friend that will have the same spark in his or her eyes than you. And you realize, hey, this person is thinking along the same lines. This person feels the idea the same way. And with Partido de la Red, particularly with political parties, I would say these are projects that are very community driven, very, you cannot do a political party on your own unless you're a super millionaire. I would find it very hard to still convince citizens and all of the voluntary work that a political party requires. There's a lot of voluntary work, not non-paid work, where people have to be convinced about an idea and passionate about an idea in the same way as the founders are. And I think Partido de la Red was like a snowball. It's the kind of idea you start talking to people, and some people click with it, and they join the meetings, and the meetings started growing larger and larger until eventually we figured we have to make this happen. And we went out there, we get the affiliates, we get the signatures, we get the permits, and we had literally run for Congress. And I guess that's a common thread among many projects that I have been involved with, even in the Web3 space. I also been, Proof of Humanity and the UBI project were also very community driven. Very different type of community where things mostly happen on Telegram, and maybe you have some meetups here and there, some conferences, but it's all digital, and it's all driven also by economic interest. But it's also the force of a community. Saying goes, 20 years ago with the Argentine Game Developers Association. Back then, when I was doing video games, we had this association of enthusiasts, hobbyists that wanted to make video games in a country like Argentina where no game industry was established. And it's also the effort of a community. And, leading communities certainly makes things, you have this shared common goal, this sense of purpose shared with others. You keep learning from your peers all around about the challenges that you're about to face. You build a lot of strength in very positive ways. And I think the story behind many successful companies is also, related to strong community building around an idea or a project. And I think that's one of the key aspects to build something meaningful.
Yeah, that's incredible. And then you said, since this was not big enough, I would like to, because we pitch a lot of times our projects to people, but you pitch your project, Universal Basic Income, to the Pope.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a good memory of that. I met Pope Francis 3 times, and all 3 times were very special. And the last time was to talk about UBI. Pope Francis famously has written a couple of encyclicas, or a couple of books. One is called Fratelli Tutti, which is about fraternity, about brotherhood of humanity. And in that writing, he actually expresses a lot of ideas about how to build economic systems that are inclusive and that don't marginalize people, that don't keep them, out of the system. And UBI is an interesting concept because it's a concept that, well, some people might label you as a socialist because you're basically talking about welfare. Some people, those who actually read Milton Friedman or Friedrich Hayek, will realize that they were all about, not they were all about that, but they were definitely addressing poverty through injections of cash was a key aspect to help kickstart a free market economy. And they talked, Milton Friedman talked about a negative income tax. Friedrich Hayek also talked about cash influx for the working class. Um, and now today you will find the topic of universal basic income being talked in the circles of artificial intelligence. Elon Musk has been a strong champion of UBI. Sam Altman has been a strong champion of UBI. Sam was actually the president of Y Combinator when I did YC back in 2015. And I was there with him when he launched a UBI experiment in Oakland. And when he was doing YC research, which was the area where he explored ideas around AI. I remember trying to convince him more to get more interested into crypto, but he was really more all about AI. I guess he was right in many ways. Um, but UBI, it's interesting now. It's a trending topic among the circles of those who are interested in artificial intelligence, because we're going to see how our jobs and the way how the connection between human labor and income generation are getting disconnected. Like human labor and income generation are more and more disconnected as automation, AI takes over. So and even today in some circles, in political circles in Argentina, it's also a topic, UBI, coming from those activists that are more related to the working class or to the Pope. So it's a common thread among many different spaces. It seems that technology could deliver a big part of the promise. Now we have cryptography, we have the key challenge of identifying humans online while preserving human privacy. There are many challenges around the idea of actually delivering the technology, but I think it's a kind of promise that I'm certain that in this century the internet will be able to deliver. And if the internet is able to deliver something like that, it means that it will deliver a more fair world, where maybe someone in Ethiopia makes the same basic income than someone in Mexico or in London or in Asia. Today is a very unfair world, where if you don't get the lottery ticket of being born in a rich country, you will go through very serious struggles. And I like the idea of the internet as an equalizing force for society. And and I remember when I presented this to the Pope, he grabbed my hand very strong and he looked at me straight into the eyes and he told me, eso. That's what I need you to. That's what I need you to do. That's what I need. And he grabbed me to the eye. That's what I need you to do. And obviously, coming from a pope, it has a powerful meaning, especially coming from an Argentine pope, which I'm very fond of. Because he's from my country, and it's always as a as a Catholic, it's always a touching feeling.
Santi, and so it's incredible all the things you have accomplished in life. Now, when you look back and you connect the dots, what do you think that makes you an entrepreneur? I think it's interesting. My passion is trying to decode the entrepreneur DNA. What's in your DNA that makes you?
It's interesting because connecting the dots, I think that I always ride different technology waves. Video games, Web 2.0, Bitcoin, smart contracts, AI. Now, these were all different waves of technology. At least in my personal experience, where the enthusiasm, the interest that technology provoked in me led me to try to figure out what kind of project I can do that's meaningful, that I can use this technology so I can learn more about it, and in the process figuring out either a product or a service or whatever, or company, whatever it takes. And now that in the last year, I pretty much switched from crypto to artificial intelligence, and got very deep into the world of LLMs and all of that. I joining the dots, it's that common pattern of, hey, there's this new thing now. How can this new thing improve the way we build things in the past, and how we can make sure that this brings a positive change in society. Now, probably with the understanding that a lot of technologies are double-edged swords. Facebook started like something that were, hey, I'm reconnected with my high school buddies, and then it was like, hey, this is doing misinformation and fake news. All technologies have this double edge. AI certainly is pretty much at the extreme of things. It's either becoming a super god that's gonna change everything about how we are as a species, or it's gonna be like a super devil that is gonna um, dominate us and slave us into some kind of new dystopia. And it's kind of, I don't think we should go into such extremes, but the fact that we have such a democratizing power source getting into people's hands, I guess that my role in one way or another, looking back, is has always had this component of educator or teacher, trying to teach society about things. Now I'm doing more, more content, and I'm on the radio in Argentina, and I've been doing media stuff and conferences for a while now. And I realized that's a way of educating myself and helping educate my country, my society, my peers, my colleagues, my family about these waves of change that are bigger and bigger each time, and scarier and scarier, and but definitely empowering in many interesting ways once you learn how to use them. And more and more, I think that has been like probably the pursuit inside of it, some sort of vocation for teaching combined with learning, combined with building. And whether that makes me an entrepreneur or not, I'm not so sure. I'm always, sometimes people tell me I'm more of an artist. Sometimes people tell me I'm more of an influencer. I'm probably a mix of all of those things, but I certainly enjoy a lot tinkering with technology and figuring out, well, how we can use this to improve things.
So it's a lot of things that happen in your life, but also probably something that you're born with, right?
Maybe there's something. Yeah, if I trace back in my family tree, I will find teachers and history professors like my grandfather. A lot of professors and teachers, I suspect, might have something to do with that.
Yeah, interesting. So, one question before we go to the rapid fire is like quick questions. We were talking about the democracy OS, and one question that I have on that specific thing, because I'm really interested in what you've been doing on that, but is it possible to hack it? Because most people is right now is thinking about with the machines here that they use for voting and all that. It's like they were or not hacked at some point. Some people have say that it's impossible. Some other people says it's not impossible. Apparently, it happened. But if democracy becomes completely online and connected with the software and everything, I remember when I was younger that everybody said everything that is logic can be hacked. Right?
Yeah, it's a tricky question because democracy is the systems that want to be democratic. These are systems that need to live in the most hostile context you can imagine, and this is why you go to a democratic vote for a difficult decision. You don't go to a democratic vote for an obvious, easy decision. You don't go to a democratic vote to ask who should build an airplane. Just send that to an airplane engineer. No one will question that. So democracy or votes or elections happen in contexts where you have to make a very difficult decision, where there's a strong conflict of interest, and there's a lot at stake. So the higher the stakes, the higher the risk, it means the more hostile the players. It means that some of the players will do whatever it takes to win. And I have done democratic implementations in all kinds of contexts. And even in the most sophisticated digital Web3 blockchain-based contexts, we had extremely savvy, sophisticated, hostile players trying to subvert and hijack the election in ways that makes you pause and say, "Wow, this guy, this guy, he's an ass, but he's actually very smart." But it's amazing how far people can go. And when you think about a national election where there's a lot at stake and people really, people's feelings are very strong, to make a system able to survive in those kinds of contexts is extremely hard. Because I remember with Democracy OS, our first approach was to do like open source, but it was just a client server architecture. Obviously, whoever manages the server, the bias that person has will allow for that person to accelerate the registration of certain voters or decelerate the registration of other certain voters. And with that subtle manipulation of the voter registry, you can take over the election. So that actually happened with when we did Democracy OS originally. So then we figured, well, we have to do a decentralized registry of voters. So you can only manipulate your own address or your own identity, but no one can manipulate the registry as a whole. So that's when proof of humanity came along. And the interesting thing about proof of humanity was that it was a liquid democracy. It was a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization that voted over the protocol rules. And it was a liquid democracy where you vote directly on issues or you delegate your vote to someone you already know and trust from the DAO. And for the first year, myself and one of the POH, Proof of Humanity co-founders from France, Clement, we were the main delegates. We had probably 40, 50 delegations each until one day Clement built a smart contract that whoever registered on Proof of Humanity uh, would automatically delegate votes to him. And he started farming delegations in Myanmar. He had a girlfriend from Myanmar, so he basically went to Myanmar and started. Burmese people started registering and automatically delegating power to this guy, and obviously that led to chaos and rioting in the DAO. And we had to propose a bill that would count delegations in a different way. We would count delegations using the square root instead of a linear count. So that would our political argument of that is it would incentivize delegating power to people with few delegations rather than making super delegates. That was the case of me and Clement. That bill passed the law. So the delegations that Clement was farming in Burma, in Myanmar, they all suddenly went down to just a few delegations in terms of political power. Obviously, he was super mad. He came to a conference I did in Bogota, in Colombia, and he tried to boycott the conference and protested. I was having fun along the process. I didn't care much, but to me, it was wild to see how this guy really went the distance to farm delegations and get power in order to control the protocol of identity being built on Ethereum. Um, we eventually, then the fun part of the story is that after the quadratic delegations got approved, then we voted to kick out Clement from the mission board of Proof of Humanity, and we won that election for 10 with a 10 vote difference, like 555 to 545. So it was a very exciting chess move on the political play of that DAO. Today, Proof of Humanity is a useless technology because with AI, you can completely take over the registry. It would be actually very simple to do it with AI, so it makes no sense to actually use that protocol anymore. But it was a nice experiment of direct democracy on the internet with blockchain voting and very sophisticated technology in place. And still, you find hostile players. And still, you find like nasty people thinking in Machiavellian ways, which led me also to think that way. You have to be defensive and it was extremely hyper political. And it's not like the world became kumbaya. And that's the challenge of democracy. Democracy is the kind of system that lives in the most hostile environment ever with the most hostile players ever. And that's why, democratic systems tend to be very conservative. You want democracies where anyone can audit the election in a permissionless way. Probably you want both paper and electronic voting at the same time, not just one way of storing the vote, but have some redundancy there. And it's a kind of discussion that's always tainted by ideology and politics. But I'm hopeful that we will get better governance systems. With AI, we might even find the interesting new ways of doing benevolent dictators that hopefully will make savvy decisions in the future.
Thank you for answering that question, Santi. Very, very interesting. Most people, and neither did I, knew about all the complexities of making technological democracy in the world. But apparently, is the humans can make logic decisions, but normally we are erratic, and unpredictable, right?
Yeah,
And that makes everything more complex.
yeah.
So let's go to the rapid fire. So first of all, best piece of software technology that or innovation that you see that you have seen recently.
Oh, that's a good one. The one that has me very excited is actually this code editor called Cursor. It's just a fork of Visual Studio to write computer code, but assisted with AI. You can use it with Cloud Sonnet or with ChatGPT on the background, and it's an amazing editor to write computer programs with AI. I even used it a few days ago with my daughter to, write to the AI
I
and
saw it.
ask her to
Very cool.
make a little video game, and it's a lot of fun. It's really a lot of fun. Cursor.
Yeah, it's interesting because I saw several people criticizing you because you said that you're programming with the AI, and it's like everybody's doing that. And actually, people that sell themselves that they are coding, like writing code all the time,
Yeah,
they never code in their life because I mean, normally it doesn't make sense. Just if there is code already, you just take the
yeah.
code and modify it. I mean, it's like
Very few people actually code. Very
yeah,
few people, and ego gets on the way of in those debates. There's a lot of human pride still, which is a very common feeling. But embrace the AI. It's a lot of fun.
yeah, yes, it is. And the second one, best podcast or book that you can recommend to aspiring entrepreneurs.
Well, I'm a big. This is probably not an original answer, but I enjoy Lex Friedman a lot. I have been listening to that podcast for a couple of years now, and even in those interviews where he brings some academic to talk about the Holy Roman Empire or American pre-Columbine civilizations, I always like getting lost into Lex Friedman's interviews. So I enjoy that a lot. And if I had to recommend a book, I'm looking at my books here. But a good piece of literature that has a lot of actuality right now is this book called Gödel Escher Bach from Douglas Hofstadter. We talked a little bit before recording the interview. He's this guy that wrote this book in 1977, and he uses the mathematics of Kurt Gödel, the drawings of Escher, and the music of Bach as an analogy to explain recursion and artificial intelligence, and to give a hint about what he suspects might be some of the working principles that allow the emergence of consciousness. So it's a very trippy, cool AI book from the late 70s that still reads very, very new today.
If you have to launch a company right now, right? Another one. In which field is going to be?
Well, a friend of mine told me, my partner in San Francisco, he was here in Madrid, and he told me everyone in the Bay Area right now only talks about AI, and it's nothing but AI. And if you're not doing AI, you're not worth anything in the Bay Area. So I had to leave. uh, and it's definitely AI is a field. I feel it's a very transformational field. It reminds me a lot to the internet. We had personal computers before the internet, and we were able to connect on BBS and to local networks in your hometown. But when the internet came, you just knew that every single thing about how we think about software would change. You would be able to download things. You would be able to make things connected to each other. Computers would become more social, and all of those things ended, shaping up the industry, the digital industry, for the next 20 years. And I feel that AI is very similar. Everything we know about how we have been using software, goes to the trash. And now we have to rethink everything. We rethink how we make images, presentations, Word documents, video, content. Everything is being like, there's an opportunity for everything to have a new kind of product, a new kind of service. Uh, I think we're still in the early phase of AI. It's an exciting technology to build with. It feels like magic when you do something with it. Like, I from the most silly things to the most complex things, but I'm like enjoying. I do social media videos now using an AI avatar, and I don't have to spend time shooting myself, making sure I look good on camera or lighting or stuff like that. I just have an avatar, send some text, and the avatar speaks and talks like me, maybe a little bit neutral in my accent, but still gets the job done. Um, I feel like AI, especially, also is going to change the entertainment industry. It's going to change medicine. It's going to change law. It's going to change so many across the board industries. When it's about medicine, no one doubts AI. Everyone wants the more AI you can get when it comes to medicine. So that's how you can tell it's a really very promising technology. So I will fall into the Bay Area cliche and say, definitely think about doing things with AI right now.
Okay. The last one. What's the perfect Saturday for Santi Siri?
The perfect Saturday.
Yes.
That's a very good question. Um, Definitely, I appreciate more and more spending time with my daughter, like just hanging out with her, nerding out, like playing with the PlayStation, or her showing me her stuff on Minecraft, or seeing her talking with her cousins online. Like she has a little nerd in her. She likes reading Harry Potter and Percy Jackson and all of these cool books that they now do for kids. And yeah, if you can give me any Saturday hanging out with my daughter, uh, I would, yeah, definitely that's nirvana to me. And I have a daughter on its way in March, so
Congrats.
double rainbow for me next year.
And now, so no more question on that, but the last one before we close is what's something funny that you never told anybody about you?
Oh boy, where do I start? My friends know stuff about me that's not known in public. I have a cool, like actually, I'm in Madrid now, and in Madrid I have a nickname. All my friends in Madrid call me by my nickname, which it's I will say it in Spanish. It's Sapo. In English, it's Toad. And it's because of a funny story of a time many years ago where I had an encounter with let's call it a psychedelic toad. And I guess the story was funny enough, so now everyone in Spain knows me as Sapo.
Very funny. So let's end with a memorable quote or advice for entrepreneurs. There are many people right now trying to be an entrepreneur. We can say we are like kind of a dinosaurs in the industry. What kind
For
of piece of
sure.
advice would you give to these people that are coming behind us and they will reshape the world that we are living in?
Oh boy. Well, what can I say that it's not like the usual advice, right? Being passionate, having conviction. You'll probably there will be moments of when you're building your own project and you're trying to lead a team or you're facing the ups and downs of the markets where you will definitely doubt yourself in a very profound way. There will be very tough moments where you'll face a lot of uncertainty, more than you can imagine, that you will feel lonely. You will probably have a girlfriend or not that will try to understand you and will not be able to have the kind of empathy for the kind of anxiety that uncertainty brings to the table. And in those moments, you really feel the imposter syndrome. You really feel no one gets you. You might not have any clue about how you're gonna make it through the winter or how you're gonna be able to afford bills or you feel super stressed that money is not coming your way. Um, those moments are very very critical, very special. Um, and obviously, having conviction, having passion will allow you to have the kind of endurance to go through those storms. But be sure that be certain that this too shall pass. whether it goes the way you expect it to go or whether it doesn't. Which probably it won't go the way you expect it to go. It will go in a different way that might even be more surprising than your own expectations. Be aware of that. And know that this nothing lasts forever. And in those moments is when you might have your click, your special idea, your pivot. Those are very special moments in the career of an entrepreneur. Uh, it can bring you down to tears, and it can bring you down in very powerful ways. I went through some of those myself. um, but you always, if you have the kind of stamina to resist that, and to be open-minded about things, don't be close-minded, but if you're open-minded about things, you might find interesting paths that are actually more surprising than your own expectations. So be open-minded. Don't let your expectations shatter your worldview, and have some faith and allow life to surprise you in meaningful ways, and be certain that nothing lasts forever, and this too shall pass, and you will go through it. At least you will make a memorable story for your grandchildren, as you go through the challenges of building something from scratch.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Santi Siri. Thank you very much for being here. That was very, very a fun moment, and of course, very teaching experience of all the things you've been doing. Thank you very much, Santi.
Thank you, Juan, for having me. It's been a pleasure, and always good to help entrepreneurs get inspired.